Hi and welcome to the channel. I'm Armin, you're watching Monomoto, and today we gonna talk about Dainese Racing Boots. Whoa! Alright, welcome back. So, as you see, I have a couple of Dainese Racing Boots here on the table. Now you might wonder, why is this dude making these videos? I am not connected in any way, shape or form to Dainese, even though I'm wearing a t-shirt of them right now. I just happen to like their gear. And the reason I'm making this video is I just picked up myself a pair of brand new Dainese Axial D1 Air boots. But so when I pick up something new, I always do way too much research, and also I have these old ones and I have years and years experience with these boots. So this video is about just sharing my research, my experience, and I hope that helps you to make a decision if these boots or any of them are the right one for you in the future. So, looking at my cheat sheet, today I want to give you first an overview. What is actually the family of the Dainese race boots about? A little bit of background, where they come from. Like this boot, for example, is 8 years old, and how did they change? Then I will talk about my experience with the boots. Models of this one I've rocked now on a track for 6 years. This one is new to me, so I'm excited about that. And then after overview, experience with the boots, I will go into the nitty-gritty, talk about the construction, what sets them apart at the different price points, and then wrap it up with the comfort. And then also do a recommendation of what shoe might be the right one for you based on construction, comfort, feeling, etc. So three different boots at 3 different price points. They all have a little bit something different to offer, and I hope at the end of this video you will know more about which one is the right one for you. So please stay tuned for that. Alright, chapter 1. Let's talk a little about the Dainese sport riding / racetrack boot section. These are 3 models from Dainese. Starting here on the left, this is a boot that's now called the Nexus. Back in the days had a different name. I don't have a tag in there that reminds me of it, but Dainese likes to change the names around every now and then. But the fun thing is, this boot is 8 or 9 years old now. And the overall construction of the boots has not changed a lot. If you look closely at these boots in comparison, like where the sliders are, the shifter pads, the entire heel cup construction, they are very, very similar. There are a lot of detail improvements that have been done throughout the last decade, and the boots definitely got more comfortable, better vented, and slightly better protected. However, not a huge difference there, so if you have an existing boot and you're really happy with that, there's no reason to upgrade boots quickly. I would wear them until you destroy them. Common weak points are the soles, because you just wear through them on aggressive racetrack pads, or you just walk too much on them until you need them resoled or you have holes in them. Anyway, this is the entry-level Nexus. Nowadays, the Nexus, this is an older model, like I said, and back then it was actually also a track-worthy boot. You can see I cannot bend this, so for your leg it has actually a decent protection there. The modern Nexus that you can buy right now, they went down in price and they made this part a lot softer, so it doesn't have this actual protection anymore. Also, the inner booty system got a little bit simplified, so this older boot has actually more than the current Nexus. So back in the days, I would have recommended this entry-level Dainese boot also for light racetrack duty. Nowadays, the Nexus, I would say, is only for sport touring and not my favorite boot anymore at all. So that's how it all started. Then you see also, if you're new to Dainese, this boot has a different top than this one. This is the Torque D1, very, very similar to the current available Torque 3. They did just some minor updates to refine it yet again a little bit. The biggest thing is like the actual construction here that is now a little bit different. But if you're new to Dainese, this one has a normal design. It's a boot that you wear over pants or over a race suit. because it has the protection on the outside. This one is a Dainese in boot. Dainese has this patented, so only they do in boots. That means the race suit goes over them. Now this one you can hear has like very old school Velcro that connects into the race suit, and you want to have a race suit that's compatible with it, because else it will chew through your material. But in comparison to the other boot, this is a much more significant investment. This one now runs for $400. I think the Nexus is now somewhere in the $260 mark, but don't quote me on that one, because we're not going to talk about the Nexus a lot, because it's not a track-worthy boot. So I really want to focus this video on the top of the line and the middle of the line boots, the Torque 3 and the Axial D1. Anyway, this one goes under the suit. It's very interesting that just when I started doing my research for this video, none of these models were available on Revzilla or Dainese.com anymore. All the in boots of this model were sold out. So either they're going to launch a new boot where they did some updates, or they're going to discontinue the in one and are only going to do the Torque 3 out, where you have the option to wear it over pants. One of the things that was always the case in the Dainese lineup is these boots are very similar. When we go later to the construction, you will see they have a lot of similar bits and pieces. I mean, just like looking at them, you see they are very similar looking. And I think that was for Dainese always a problem to justify the Big Daddy, because here we are talking at $530 US, so 200 something, and then this is pretty much twice the price. You can buy 2 pairs of these for one Axial D1. I will explain in the construction why this might be worth it. It is an expensive boot and definitely an investment, but this is the top of the line race boot from Dainese. It's worn by all the Dainese sponsored racers, like Valentino Rossi, Toprak in World Superbike, or Miller, etc, etc. They all are rocking this Axial D1 in boot. And also this one only comes in in version, so for the top of the world racing, you don't have any other option with Dainese than to have the suit going over the boot. So entry level, mid level and top level boots from Dainese. This one I only have really here to show a little bit the heritage and how an out version of this one would look like. But for now we don't need this anymore, and goodbye Mr. Boot. So in the rest of this video, we will really go toe to toe on those two boots. These are the Torque 3 and the Axial D1 boot from Dainese. And there's also some waterproof options or some air options, but we're gonna not go too much into the other options for race boots in this video, because they're essentially the same boots, just with a little bit changes in ventilation or waterproofness. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, chapter 2 of this video. After we had a look in the overview, let me talk with you about my experience with these race boots. Now, I've rocked, this is my second pair of the Torque 3s. They were called back in the days TRQ Pros, then Torque D1, and then Torque 3 I think was the heritage for these guys. And I have them now for 6-7 years. So this is model 2. You can see it has a lot of scrapes. I questioned these already, and it's still 100% functional. It has just some scuffs, and I will enter some close-ups right here. So you can really see how the protective bits over years and years of refinement are exactly the right spots. The hard parts got scratched up, but I was 100% fine and didn't have a single scratch or bruise on my body thanks to the boots. So I'm not replacing them because I cannot wear them anymore. They're still totally fine to use. I am upgrading my race suit, and the new race suit is better made for these guys. More later in the construction why these are better suited for certain race suits than the standard Torque 3 is. Alright, so like I said, 6 years experience with these. This boot is new to me, which is really exciting. And then I'm having Dainese boots since 8 years. I was always happy with them. They fit me well. I think if you have a normal or wide foot, they should fit you well. So let's talk about how it is actually to live with these boots. I have done some sport touring with these in the beginning, and then also done a lot of canyon carving where I was riding with all my protective gear in the canyons. When I'm pushing on a sport bikes on mountain roads, I definitely want to wear all my gear all the time. And these are comfortable. When you get off the bike and you go into a restaurant or a gas station, they are very comfortable to walk in. Sometimes they get a little squeaky in the hinge. You could, just like that. So you can use some silicone oil or so to try to quieten that down. I don't think it's a big problem. It's just kind of funny. They squeak a little bit when you walk. But walking in them is great. You don't want to go on a hike or so on them, but they are comfortable. On the bike, they feel great. The sole is thin but really firm. Like this way I cannot twist it, and this way it gives a little bit so you can walk and move around on the bike. The sole is awesome, how it feels on aggressive sport bike foot pegs or anything like really that is very grippy. You have tons of feel. Even when I was riding them on my GS, I really was impressed of how much you feel the foot pegs without being irritating. It's not that like you feel all the bumps and it's uncomfortable. You just really feel what the bike is doing without being uncomfortable. So the sole is amazing. I don't think they changed it much in the last 10 years because it's just great. Eventually you will wear it out. I have very aggressive serrated foot pegs, and if you move around on them, then you will wear the ball of your foot out, where you're supposed to stand on your foot pegs. This happens, usually I get like 20 to 30 track days out of a boot until the sole runs very thin. So that's the main wear and tear area for me, just running through that. And then of course also on the magnesium sliders here, if you have your foot position wrong or you crash, you will wear through them, but they're replaceable. And the only thing is, I don't know anyone that can resole Dainese race boots. If you know anyone that can resole these boots with the same rubber, please leave a comment below. That would be super helpful, because sometimes I just really want a new sole, and right now I always have to buy a new boot and throw the rest away, which is really a big shame. I think you could get a lot of years out of these when you can just resole them. And the reason actually I upgraded to this one from the previous one was I was not quite done with the sole yet. There was still a little bit life left in it, but I was riding on a very hot day where it was almost 40 Celsius, so over 100 Fahrenheit on that day, no wind, and I was riding on a 2015 S1000 RR from BMW, and that thing with the stock exhaust was handling the heat of the exhaust system very weirdly, and the left foot got a lot of the heat from a heat shield reflected onto it. So it got actually so hot that the glue separated and the sole was flapping up, and the boot was rendered unusable. So if you have extreme heat right from the exhaust in a very, very, very hot day, that can happen. That said, like I am regularly riding on very hot 100 Fahrenheit plus days in California with these, and I only had this happen once. It's really just if there's a malfunction from your exhaust that could melt these boots. In that case, it was user error, so I had to buy new boots. This is not covered by warranty if you melt your rubber with an exhaust off. So very unfortunate, but that's like the only problems I had with these. Everything else has worked fantastic. And yeah, it's just a very comfortable boot that inspires you with confidence and really gives you great feedback to ride the bike hard, because you know exactly what it's doing and you know you are protected. Last thing on these, they're pretty light. And for that, let me bring out the scale. All right, starting with this boot. You can see it, but I don't see it. 860 grams or 1.9 pounds. Compared to 790 grams or 1.76 pounds. So a little bit lighter. And then for good measure, the Axial D1. 820 grams or 1.8 pounds. So you can see all the boots have very similar weight, and the torque is actually a little bit lighter than the top of the chain Axial D1. It makes sense, there's definitely less going on in this boot than here, so it's a little bit lighter even though there's a lot of carbon fiber in here. Spoiler alert, more to that in the construction. This boot feels very light on the feet. It's never that you feel like it's heavy or weighing you down. I think the weight is great and not a problem there. Speaking of experience with the boot, ventilation is a big one. Here in California, like I said, we have often 40 Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit plus track days, and you're sitting on an engine on 2 wheels, so it gets hot. The previous model of this one had plain old no ventilation. There's like a little bit of ventilation that can go through this jeans-like material in the back. This one has now here this little grate that will let some air in and a tiny little bit out through the side. Even though it has some ventilation, you always will get very sweaty feet in there, especially when you're working the bike on a racetrack or on a canyon road. But these are made for sport riding, and you will get very, very hot feet in these. Now, if you ride in a much colder climate, that might be not so much a problem. But for most tracks in the summertime, right, you want to ride with good temperature, so you have tons of grip and can really have a lot of fun in the summertime. These tend to get a little bit hot. That's why I'm really excited about these guys, because this is the Axial D1 Air, and it's the first time they have a boot that has, you know, full perforation. I will talk in the next chapter now about this, which is construction, to really compare these two guys and see why does this cost $400 and why does this cost $530, and is it justified? All right, next chapter, construction and protection. Goes hand in hand. How they're built will tell you how well they protect you. Good coffee. All right, construction and protection. So, on paper, these have almost the same weight, and both of them have the CE Level 2 protection certification. That just means that they have been tested, and for the basic impacts, right, something like crush and twisting, they both reach the highest level that is currently available for motorcycle protection in boots. However, I think this one offers quite a bit more protection, and I hope you will agree with me after this video. If not, let me know in the comments below. These boots have a lot in common, but they also have slight differences. So let's walk through everything they have in common. First thing, the soles. They have exactly the same rubber, like I said earlier. Really great tactile feeling. It's very stiff. You never feel like it's too harsh. There's a good bit of dampening in, so you don't get upset by vibrations from metal foot pegs. They're just extremely comfortable. They're very stiff. And give you great feedback. So I really love them on an aggressive bike, but even on adventure bikes, they feel great. All right, so it's the same. Then here we have reinforced toe protection. This is hard, I cannot compress this. Same thing here. Then here we have a shifter pad. These are on left and right boots. Even though usually you only shift on left side, you have them on both sides, so you have symmetry. This is like a nice rubber, makes shifting a little bit more precise. They also didn't change that. Then, a lot of people get this wrong where they think the cheaper boot doesn't have magnesium sliders. Both parts here are magnesium and they're both replaceable. Here, this boot has also here on the side and in the back metal inserts. They are not magnesium, they are just called metal inserts by Dainese. This boot has only one metal insert here. It has nothing here because there's carbon fiber behind it. I will talk about it in a second. Before we go to the carbon fiber bits, I want to stay on the outside of the boot. There's still a couple of more changes because you see this entire panel, the lower part of the boot. On the Torque 3, this is fake leather. So this is a complete vegan friendly boot, by the way. In case this matters for you, you can go with this option. No cows have been hurt for making this race boot. So it's an artificial leather and it has high abrasion resistance, but it has certain characteristics, right, that are different from cowhide that is usually used for motorcycle protective gear at the highest level. Then, like I said, here it has a little air inlet, which when you're riding, right, you have your foot something like this on a sport bike, the air hits right here and it cools down the top of your foot a little bit. And here, this is really, really hard to see, there's just 10 little tiny holes that can be used as a little exhaust. So hot air is supposed to come out of there. And then this, I think, Cordura-like material can breathe a little bit, but you have also a leather suit over that part. So really not a lot of ventilation for this going on. Like I said, I'm always hot in this and you always get a bit of a sweaty foot in this. Then if you go around, this is a complete TPU piece that is going around your heel. This is, if I'm trying to crush it, I can compress it a little bit, but it is very strong. And if I try to twist it, I cannot do this. Also, like compression, right, from falling on something or hitting something very hard, this is not buckling. It's a very, very, very strong boot. Like I said, CE level 2 as well. And then if we go up to the higher part, you see this is old school Velcro, where it has maybe 2 or 3 millimeter long little hooks to connect with the female bits of the race suit. However, one feedback was, right, if you run these with non-Dainese race suits or jeans, they're so aggressive that they can destroy your clothes. On the actual D1, we have now this Velcro that is very, very smooth and just much, much, much flatter. Still grips amazingly well, just less aggressive. But then also from the outside, you see, if I try to twist this to the side, this has a little bit of give, but it's not easy. It takes quite some effort. However, here, I cannot do this at all because this one has carbon fiber in the inside. So for protection in this kind of scenario where your foot might get twisted, the actual D1 has much better protection because carbon fiber, TPU here. So that's the overview for the Torque 3 on the construction side, and now we'll see what is actually different here. The new Velcro, really nice to have, so you can ride it with a lot of other pants and options. Also magnesium slider here. Then this is a leather construction, and this is the actual D1 air boot. Air, like for better air ventilation. And if you look closely, it is perforated. So this is very new. It probably took Dainese some research how to layer. There's like 2 layers of cowhide. There's one here and then this one on top. And the perforation goes through the entire area. When you're riding aggressively, you would get all the wind here, right? This is covered by the race suit. So this should be a great improvement in ventilation. They didn't bother with an exhaust port. I think that was actually a gimmick anyway only. And then also here on the inside, we have a more like a microfiber material that is nicer to interface with the bike. Like if you compare here, right, we have a hinge for the actual system in TPU, right, for the actual protection, which is not 100% flush. It's pretty flush, so you don't catch anything. But this one is a lot flusher because it's covered in this microfiber material. And if you press against the bike, then you will have a better touch point where you will feel the bike more, and also you can get closer to it because you don't have plastic. Also, this might breathe a little bit more air, but this boot is still new to me, so I will maybe do a long-term review once I had some months and track days on these boots as well. Like I said, leather, magnesium. Then here you have just a little clear plastic panel. This is really just done so you can see the cool carbon fiber under it, because all the carbon fiber is internal to the boot. So they just exposed it here so you can see it a little bit. But the entire heel cockpit for the heel is all made of carbon fiber from the outside and the inside. So if I'm trying to squeeze this, it's a lot stronger than the TPU version, and it barely buckles. Then another thing that stands out in the construction. Right now without a leg in there, you maybe not see this so much, but this circumference is quite a bit smaller than this. This boot is here because the actual system in carbon is on the inside and there is material over it, so the boot is wider here and also up here where it goes into the race suit. That was one of the reasons why I got this one, because I'm getting a new Dainese race suit, which will be a Misano 2 Air. And this boot is just made for the Misano and the Mugello. This one was actually too skinny and didn't quite fit in there to have a tight seal. So it was time to upgrade. Another thing about the construction, if you look here, you get a little Italian flag. They're both from Dainese, where it has one Italian flag and the other one not. If you open it up, this one has been made and always been made in Romania. That's what Dainese does when they have some of their entry-level or mid-level piece of equipment. They are made in Romania. Only their top-level stuff gets an Italian flag when it is made in Italy. So, now things get very different on the inside. You see, this is actually just the shell and you can flip it over. And you can see now here is the carbon fiber actual system exposed. Here we have these Velcros that keep the front and the back part connected, so you can put your heel in there and make it as tight as you want. And you see this is the actual system that is protecting your foot from being torqued out of place. Here, right, we have only the protective bit on the outside, and then we have this little flap to make an entrance. However, this one also has the inner booty system where you can hinge down. Essentially it's like up until here, a lower booty. And just like in snowboard boots, you can cinch it down a little bit so you make your feel there in the foot a little bit tighter or looser, however you want. And then you just put the Velcro here out of the way and then you cover it up so you have no points or so that are uncomfortable. And here it's the same thing. So you take this off and then down here is this little piece, right? You can lock it with this and then unlock it. So you put your foot in, cinch it down, and then put this one here out of the way. So you have a nice tight feeling. So very similar boots, right? And not a lot of difference. So the big difference is really just leather construction, fake leather construction, and no carbon fiber that is even stiffer for more lateral protection. One thing then also here is carbon fiber is extremely uncomfortable, right? It is hard and there are some pointy edges here. So that's why you have a lot of padding up here. And I think when you want to go for this Axial D1 boot, make sure that you really find a good size for you, and that if you have maybe wider calves or skinny ankles, make sure that it really fits, because this boot has a little bit more padding than this one, because carbon fiber is not comfortable, right? Like here you have some squishiness in the upper heel part because it's TPU. Here I'm squishing even stronger, it doesn't give. So if you rub on anything in this boot, you will be very sore and uncomfortable. This boot has a lot of padding, but make sure you have the perfect fit, else you will hate these boots. Alrighty. When you're done, you just put these Velcro pieces back there, flip it up, zip it up, and you're good. So, in comparison, who would I really recommend which one of these boots for? Now with the Torque 3, we have an awesome boot that has a lot of the cool bits of the big brother. Right? We have magnesium sliders, we have the same awesome feeling sole, you have the shifter pad, you have an actual protection system. This one is of TPU, but does a good job. You have metal inserts here and there that protect you in a crash. You have fake leather, which is less breathable, but drives down the cost. And on the inside, you have also a booty that you can hinge down. They're not removable, but you get a really good feel out of this $400 boot. On this side, we have a little bit more. We have leather, and in this case, it's perforated, so should flow more air. And also leather is more breathable than artificial leather. Weight-wise, this one is actually a tiny bit heavier than this one, so you're not really saving anything with the fancy carbon fiber. The big selling point on carbon fiber is the rigidity. This is just a much stronger boot. It will protect you on even heavier impacts. And then you have the nice panel here for interfacing with the bike. That is definitely much nicer than this panel here, which is just a little bit rubber that is having a little bit of a texture on it. From the inside, this boot is actually a little bit less comfortable. For sport touring, for example, with all the carbon fiber bits, I would really recommend it less. The carbon fiber, right, doesn't work with you. It is stiff, and if anything rubs, you will get very sore and uncomfortable. So for sport touring, canyon riding, I would absolutely recommend this cheaper boot. Well, at $400 it's not cheap at all, but it is definitely $130 more affordable than this one. You still get great protection, and because of the forgiving nature of the TPU, you will have a pretty comfortable, long-lasting boot. On the other side here, if you want a top-of-the-line racing boot for around $530 of the time of recording of this video, the Axial D1 is the way to go. For hot days, I would probably go always for the air version, unless you ride somewhere where it's really cold, but usually I know track days are usually ridden in the heat of the summer. So I would always go for this one. The micro Velcro is awesome. It doesn't rip anything apart anymore in case you want to wear them with your jeans, which is a little bit strange, but you can do it. And then there's also this thing, if you are having in your wardrobe a Dainese Mugello or Misano suit, this is just simply the boot to go for. The suits are made to exactly receive this boot, so it's all custom tailored to be one working unit. If you have those suits, just go for this boot. I don't think you will regret it. If you're more a jeans rider, or you have a split suit where you have leather pants that are separated from the jacket, or you want to sometimes ride it on track, but most of the time on the street, maybe you pair it with a Laguna Seca suit, this is an awesome boot to have. So really gets you to the track, and I've used it for 6 years on the track. It protected me well in an accident. So you don't need this expensive boot, but this will definitely get you there. In summary, I think these are the only two boots from Dainese in 2021 that get you to the racetrack. This one is at $400, not cheap, but this is still the entry-level Dainese race boot for the racetrack. And then we're directly going to the Axial D1 Air for $530 as the flagship boot. This boot is awesome, has a lot of features. If you are on a budget, go for this boot. I think you will not regret anything. If money is not an option, get the Axial D1. Good. In the interest of keeping the video short, these are the main points I had about these boots. If I missed anything, leave a comment below. Also, please give this video a like if this was helpful for you. And I do a lot of reviews here whenever I buy stuff, just like to give you my honest opinion about the experience of this boot and my analysis of the new boot. So I hope this was helpful. I hope to see you again on this channel. Please subscribe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.